What do we fear the most when the lights go out in our own living room and a film unfolds with shadows that feel a little too real? Imagine sinking into your seat as the world outside dissolves and the screen becomes a doorway to the darkest corners of human nature. Today, we count down the top 10 dark movies on Netflix that pull you into a world of terror, guilt, paranoia, and hidden truths. Number 10, The Ritual, 2017. The Ritual arrived with a reputation as a sleeper hit admired by horror fans for its bold blend of psychological dread and folklore terror. It was not a blockbuster, nor a major studio event. Instead, it carried the quiet menace of a nightmare, whispered around campfires. The story follows four friends grieving the loss of a companion as they venture deep into the Scandinavian wilderness. At first, the journey feels like therapy, but soon the forest begins to twist around them, forming shapes that should not exist. The premise appears simple until you realize the monster is not only stalking them, but also feeding on their fear and regret. Some whispered that the film was too bleak for mainstream audiences. Early viewers claimed that the creature design was disturbing in ways that clung to the mind long after the credits rolled. Rumors spread that certain test screenings caused walkouts due to the suffocating tension. Studio executives reportedly debated how much of the final act they should reveal in trailers or whether the mythology would be considered too obscure for casual viewers. Behind the scenes, the remote forest locations created real challenges. Equipment malfunctioned in freezing conditions. Cast members described hearing strange howls during overnight shoots, adding an unplanned layer of fear. Critics praised the film for its commitment to atmosphere, though others argued it was too unrelenting and emotionally heavy. Yet, in the aftermath, The Ritual gained a quiet cult status. Viewers discovered it late at night, drawn to its lonely beauty, and the sense that something ancient lurked behind every tree. It became one of those Netflix titles people recommended in hushed tones. A reminder that guilt can be the most savage monster, and sometimes the scariest journeys are the ones we take within ourselves. Number 9. The Devil, All the Time, 2020. The Devil All the Time emerged with a reputation as one of Netflix's most unsettling dramas, not because of jump scares or monsters, but because it exposes the darkness that festers inside ordinary people. The film spans decades, weaving through a rural American landscape filled with violence, manipulation, and twisted beliefs. From the opening scene, you feel the weight of despair pulling everything downward like a slow sinking ship. The story centers on a young man surrounded by damaged souls and haunted histories. Every character hides a secret. Every quiet town corner holds a buried truth. It is a world where the line between the righteous and the wicked blurs until no one resembles who they claim to be. Critics praised the performances, yet some viewers said the emotional heaviness was almost too much to bear. A few called it one of the bleakest films in Netflix history, a title not given lightly. Production insiders revealed that certain scenes were toned down during editing. Early cuts were said to be even darker and more hopeless, pushing boundaries that executives feared audiences would reject. Some whispered that the original script leaned further into themes of corruption and trauma before being reshaped for broader viewers. Yet even in its softened form, the film carries an oppressive tone that lingers. Behind the scenes, the cast reportedly struggled with the emotional toll of their roles. Some scenes required them to stay in intense states for hours. A few crew members mentioned strange silences on set, as if the material seeped into everyone present. Critics were divided. Some hailed the film as a bold exploration of moral decay, while others found it overwhelming and suffocating. In the aftermath, The Devil, All the Time gained recognition as a slow-burning portrait of human darkness. It did not vanish into obscurity. Instead, it quietly carved out a reputation as a disturbing yet powerful Netflix entry. A reminder that true horror does not always come from creatures of the night. Sometimes it comes from people who believe they are doing what is right while walking deeper into the shadows. Number 8. Bird Box, 2018. Bird Box arrived like a storm, capturing global attention and triggering endless online theories. Audiences described it as daring, dangerous, and unforgettable. It tells the story of a world overtaken by unseen entities that drive people to madness with a single glance. Survivors must live blindfolded, navigating rivers, forests, and ruined cities by sound alone. From its first moments, the film grips you with a sense of suffocation. Its premise sparked fascination and fear. Imagine trying to protect children in a world where opening your eyes means losing your mind. The film does not rely on traditional monsters. Instead, it lets the audience imagine what cannot be shown, which makes the terror far more personal. Some whispered that early test audiences panicked during scenes involving blindfolded navigation and chaotic sound design. Rumors claimed that streaming executives debated how intense the final version should be, especially with its heavy themes of despair, survival, and psychological collapse. Behind the scenes, production faced real danger during the river sequences. Cast and stunt teams battled strong currents, unpredictable weather, and dense forest obstacles. Reports suggested that several planned shots had to be abandoned due to safety concerns. Critics praised Sandra Bullock for her fierce, emotionally drained performance. Others argued that the film was too bleak for holiday season release, yet Netflix pushed ahead, creating one of the most talked about films of its time. Audience reaction was explosive. Some viewers binged it multiple times, hunting for clues about the creatures. Others said they had nightmares for days. Bird Box quickly became a cultural event, spawning discussions, theories, and memes. But once the storm faded, the film slipped into quieter corners of the platform, discovered only by new viewers seeking a fresh scare. Its legacy remains haunting, a reminder that the most terrifying threats are the ones we are never allowed to see. And sometimes survival means living without the comfort of sight, truth, or hope. Number 7. The Platform, 2019. The Platform entered the Netflix catalog with a reputation for being one of the most unsettling and thought-provoking films ever released on the platform. It is bold, dangerous, and deeply symbolic. Set inside a vertical prison with hundreds of levels, it follows inmates who rely on a descending platform filled with food. Those at the top feast, those below starve. It is a brutal system that exposes the cruelty and desperation that emerge when survival becomes a competition. The film unfolds like a nightmare. Each level represents a different stage of human greed, fear, and collapse. Characters descend into madness, violence erupts, alliances break. You watch individuals cling to hope only to find that the system itself is rigged against them. Some viewers called it one of the darkest visions of society ever put on screen. Others said the imagery was almost too disturbing, especially the moments of chaos. Rumors claimed that the film caused heated discussions within Netflix due to its powerful social commentary. Executives were reportedly concerned about scenes involving extreme despair and hopelessness. Some whispered that certain sequences were trimmed before release to avoid overwhelming audiences. Test screenings allegedly revealed divided reactions. Some viewers praised its bold message, while others found it unbearable. Behind the scenes, the cast faced emotional exhaustion, filming in cold, damp concrete sets for long hours. Crew members described the atmosphere as heavy, as if the environment itself pressed on their spirits. Critics admired the film for its unflinching vision, though many acknowledged it was not for the faint of heart. In the aftermath, the platform became a modern cult sensation. It did not disappear, but instead grew in reputation as viewers shared hidden meanings and debated its ending. It became more than a film. It became a warning, a mirror held up to society, revealing how quickly order collapses when resources run thin, and how darkness rises not from monsters, but from the choices people make when no one is watching. Number 6. Nocturnal Animals, 2016. Nocturnal Animals arrived with the reputation of being one of the most chilling, psychological thrillers of its decade. Critics admired its elegance, but warned that beneath its polished surface lived a brutal story about regret, vengeance, and emotional decay. It is not a horror film in the traditional sense. Instead, it haunts the viewer like a slow poison creeping into the mind long after the credits fade. The film moves between two timelines. One follows a successful gallery owner whose perfect life begins to crack. The other unfolds inside a violent novel written by her former partner. As she reads the manuscript, she is pulled into a world of terror where a family road trip turns into a nightmare. The story within the story is raw, merciless, and drenched in dread. Viewers spoke about how the film makes you feel helpless, as if you are trapped inside someone else's guilt. Controversy surrounded the intensity of certain scenes. Rumors spread that early cuts were even more brutal and emotionally devastating. Some whispered that studio executives pushed for edits, fearing public backlash. A few critics suggested that the darker meaning behind the story was too sharp for mainstream audiences. Its portrayal of emotional manipulation and unresolved trauma created debates across online forums. Behind the scenes, the cast described filming the darker sequences as emotionally draining. Long takes forced them to sit in raw psychological states, creating an atmosphere that felt heavy even after the cameras stopped. The production design team intentionally crafted barren landscapes and quiet, empty spaces to evoke a sense of endless isolation. In the aftermath, Nocturnal Animals gained recognition as a modern cult thriller. It does not vanish from discussions. Instead, it circles back every few years as new viewers discover its hidden layers. It serves as a reminder that the most devastating wounds are the ones carved not by violence, but by choices, regret, and paths never taken. A story that warns how easily our lives can fracture when the past reaches out from the shadows, demanding to be seen again. Number 5. The Father, 2020. The Father entered the cinematic world carrying a reputation for brilliance wrapped in heartbreak. It was praised for its daring structure, yet whispered about for its emotional devastation. Unlike traditional dark films, it does not rely on violence or supernatural terror. Instead, it pulls the audience into the fragile world of a man losing his grip on reality, presenting dementia as a labyrinth from which there is no escape. The narrative unfolds in shifting rooms, faces, and timelines. Walls change, voices change. Familiar people become strangers. The viewer experiences confusion alongside the central character, creating a sense of dread that feels painfully intimate. Imagine waking up each day unsure of where you are or who you can trust. This film turns that quiet fear into a full emotional assault. Rumors suggested that early test viewers were overwhelmed by the intensity. Some viewers reportedly left screenings shaken by how accurately the film depicted cognitive collapse. Studio insiders whispered that certain scenes were softened to avoid overwhelming audiences. Critics debated whether the film was too heavy for wide release, yet its emotional truth was undeniable. Behind the scenes, the cast engaged in deep preparation. They studied real accounts of memory loss and worked with specialists to portray the condition with respect and accuracy. Filming took place on sets that subtly shifted layout between scenes, creating an unconscious sense of disorientation for both cast and crew. Several team members claimed they felt lingering unease during production, as if the set itself kept changing when no one was looking. After release, The Father was praised for its humanity, yet feared for its honesty. It quickly earned awards and global acclaim, but also a reputation as a film viewers could not easily revisit. It leaves a mark, a quiet echo that lingers long after the screen goes dark. A reminder that one of the darkest experiences a person can face is the loss of self. A tragedy that unfolds not in shadows, but within the fragile chambers of the mind. Number 4. The Killing of a Sacred Deer, 2017. The Killing of a Sacred Deer entered the Netflix catalog as one of the most unsettling and divisive films of its era. It earned praise for its daring vision, yet its cold, clinical tone frightened many viewers. From the opening moments, you sense something is off. Characters speak with eerie calmness. Rooms feel too quiet. Every smile hides something sharp. The story follows a surgeon whose life begins to unravel after he befriends a mysterious teenage boy. What starts as a strange relationship soon grows into a nightmare as a series of unexplained events threaten the surgeon family. Viewers describe the film as hypnotic and suffocating. It explores guilt, punishment, and moral consequence with a brutality that does not rely on gore but on emotional terror. Rumors claimed that certain scenes caused discomfort during festival screenings. Some whispered that the studio debated limiting promotional material to avoid alienating audiences. Critics argued fiercely about the meaning behind the story. Some saw it as a dark modern myth. Others believed it pushed emotional boundaries too far, creating divisions among viewers. Behind the scenes, the director pushed for precise control over tone. Actors delivered lines in flat, measured voices, creating an unnatural rhythm that kept audiences uneasy. Crew members described filming as surreal, noting how the sterile sets and strict pacing created an atmosphere that felt like a waking dream. The film Aftermath was intense. Some viewers praised its originality, calling it a masterpiece of psychological horror. Others said they could never watch it again. It quickly developed a cult following among fans who appreciate films that challenge viewers rather than comfort them. Today it stands as one of Netflix's most haunting offerings, a story that reminds us that guilt follows us like a shadow, and sometimes the price of past mistakes returns in forms we cannot predict or understand. Number 3, Gerald's Game, 2017. Gerald's Game arrived with a reputation for being unfilmable. Many believed the original story was too confined, too internal, too psychologically brutal to translate to the screen. Yet Netflix took the risk, and the result became one of the darkest and most surprising thrillers of the decade. From the first scene, the film traps the viewer in a suffocating silence that grows heavier with each passing minute. The story follows a woman who becomes stranded in a remote cabin after a tragic incident leaves her handcuffed to a bed with no hope of rescue. What follows is a battle against fear, thirst, hallucinations, and the shadows that rise from her own past. The film blends physical survival with emotional revelation, forcing the audience to confront buried memories and inner demons. Controversy surrounded its release due to the intensity of certain scenes. Some whispered that early viewers were shaken by the depiction of trauma and psychological collapse. Rumors suggested that Netflix debated how graphic the imagery should be. A few insiders claimed that the first cut was even darker before adjustments were made to keep the experience bearable for wider audiences. Behind-the-scenes filming was emotionally draining. Actors had to perform long monologues in still positions. The isolated cabin set felt soul-crushing at times. Crew members reported that the atmosphere grew heavier as production progressed, as if the story itself weighed on everyone involved. Despite its darkness, the film received praise for its bold execution and powerful performances. Viewers called it terrifying, not because of monsters, but because of the horrors that exist in the human mind. In the aftermath, Gerald's Game developed a cult reputation. It resurfaces regularly as new viewers discover its intensity through word of mouth. It stands as a warning that sometimes the most terrifying prisons are the ones built from memory pain and past wounds. A reminder that the darkest battles we fight happen within the quiet corners of our own minds. Number 2. Requiem for a Dream, 2000. Requiem for a Dream stands as one of the darkest psychological films ever placed on Netflix. It arrived with a reputation so heavy that many viewers could only watch it once. Critics praised its artistry, yet warned that it pushed emotional boundaries in a way few films dared to attempt. It is a story not of monsters or supernatural terror, but of human fragility exposed in the harshest possible light. The film follows four individuals chasing dreams that slowly twist into nightmares. At first, their hopes shine brightly. A mother wants purpose. A son wants escape. A friend seeks success. A young woman longs for independence. But with each passing scene, their lives fall deeper into despair. What begins as ambition becomes obsession. What begins as hope becomes ruin. The downward spiral is relentless, turning ordinary lives into tragedies that feel painfully real. Rumors circled for years that test audiences were overwhelmed. Some whispered that viewers left screenings in stunned silence, unable to speak. Others claimed that certain sequences were originally even more intense before the studio insisted on slight adjustments. Still, the final cut remains one of the bleakest films ever given a wide release. Critics debated whether it was too disturbing for mainstream audiences, though many acknowledged its power. Behind the scenes, the director pushed for emotional authenticity. Cast members prepared extensively, immersing themselves in psychological research. Filming often took place in tight, confined spaces to heighten the sense of suffocation. Crew members described days on set as draining, as if the story itself cast a shadow that followed them home each night. After release, the film earned a legendary reputation. It resurfaced on Netflix years later, gaining a new wave of viewers who discovered its haunting realism. Many viewers say they appreciated the artistry, but the emotional toll was almost unbearable. It stands today as one of the darkest journeys ever captured on screen, a reminder that despair grows quietly until it becomes a force that consumes everything. And sometimes the most terrifying stories are the ones rooted in ordinary human longing, twisted into irreversible tragedy. Number 1. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, 2011. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo entered Netflix with the reputation of being a brutal, cold, and unflinching mystery thriller. It immediately gripped audiences with its stark atmosphere and fearless storytelling. Critics praised its intelligence while warning viewers about its relentless tension. The film creates a world wrapped in ice, both literally and emotionally. Every scene feels sharp, every shadow holds a secret. The story follows a journalist and a brilliant hacker as they investigate a decades-old disappearance. What begins as a simple assignment soon unravels into a web of corruption, family hatred, and hidden crimes buried beneath layers of silence. As the investigation deepens, the two leads uncover horrors that twist through generations. The cold Swedish landscapes enhance the sense of isolation, making every revelation feel heavier. Rumors surrounded the production long before release. Some whispered that early cuts were too intense and caused concern among studio executives. There were reports that certain scenes triggered strong reactions at advanced screenings. Despite this, the director refused to compromise the harsh tone, insisting that the story demanded honesty. Critics praised the result, though many warned that the film was not for sensitive viewers. Behind the scenes, the cast endured emotionally demanding sequences, often filming in freezing temperatures that added to the film's raw authenticity. Crew members stated that the atmosphere on set felt heavy due to the weight of the story. Long nights of shooting took a toll, and actors often needed time to decompress after portraying moments of deep emotional turmoil. In the aftermath, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo built a fierce cult following. It remained on Netflix as one of the platform's most striking examples of dark adult storytelling. Viewers discovered it late at night and found themselves pulled into its mystery, unable to look away from its cold brilliance. It stands as a reminder that truth can be as chilling as winter winds, and that some secrets buried in silence claw their way back to the surface, demanding to be uncovered. Dark films linger because they reveal truths we try to ignore. They remind us that fear, guilt, and regret shape every shadow around us. As you finish this countdown, ask yourself what lies hidden in the stories you avoid and why these films pull you toward them. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Netflix's darkest tales, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and tell us which chilling title we should explore next.